Hello there. Right now the UK is facing an icy winter when we shouldn't have needed to, all because of net zero. Now, if you haven't already heard, the projections for the energy price cap are now that it will have to reach £5,000 by April next year, just 8 months away. Yes, 5,000 quid. And it won't matter if there are energy blackouts next year, because at those sorts of prices, many families will be huddling together in freezing self-imposed blackouts. Either that or the next Tory PM is going to be paying millions of households a couple of thousand quid to tide them over. And that will be tens of billions more added to the national debt, no doubt. Now China has their answer. They'll be burning another 300 million tonnes of coal in their new coal-powered electricity plants. And just for comparison, according to Statista.com, in 1970, total UK coal consumption was 157 million tonnes, which is just over half of that extra 300 million that China is now going to burn. In fact, carbonbrief.com puts China's coal consumption in 2021 as 2.9 billion tonnes, 4.4% up on the previous year, and it's going to burn even more next year. And do you want to know what UK coal consumption for 2021 was? 8.6 million tonnes. That's about 0.3% of China's total 2021 coal consumption. Now look at India's 2021 coal consumption. 1.05 billion tonnes, according to the Times of India. That's over 120 times UK coal consumption. And the USA, just over 500 million tonnes. That's 62 times our UK coal consumption. And according to our eco-loons, it's the UK's paltry 8.6 million tonnes that is meant to make all the difference. Overall, the UK carbon footprint, including gas and oil, is minuscule compared to these other countries. No wonder they ignore our green pronouncements and get on with looking after themselves. Now please tell me that I've got all this wrong and that the UK isn't virtue signalling over peanuts while the rest of the world looks on in merriment. Anyway, it's not like we have any recourse to coal anyway, because the UK goes the whole hog in its virtue signalling. When we shut down coal power, we go all the way and make sure it can never be used again. This is Alok Sharma, the climate change COP26 president in August last year, dispatching the Ferrybridge coal power plant. Just 1 year ago, mind.
1 minute to blow down.
I'm here in West Yorkshire to trigger the demolition of the boiler house and 2 chimney stacks as part of the decommissioning of SSE's Ferrybridge coal-fired power plant. The UK is on the march in consigning coal power to history. In 2012, around 40% of our electricity was generated from coal. Today, it is less than 2%. And by the end of 2024, we will have eliminated coal entirely from our electricity mix. We know that more than any other power source, coal emissions have a devastating impact on the climate. And so it's time for countries around the world to set out clear plans to consign coal power to the history books and ultimately safeguard our planet for future generations.
30 seconds.
The UK is moving fast towards a clean energy transition, and the many new jobs in renewables demonstrates that the opportunities are absolutely there as part of our green industrial revolution. Pressing the button on this demolition today is a symbolic moment. It demonstrates that change is possible. But to limit global temperature rises and keep 1.5 degrees within reach, the whole world needs to plan to consign coal power to the past.
Fire!
And there it is, it's down 7 seconds after months of work. Just an example of consigning coal power to history.
He looked very pleased with himself, didn't he? I wonder if he'd do exactly the same thing today. What do you reckon? No, we don't put these things in mothballs for a few years just in case, do we? No, we have to show the world that there's no going back for us Brits, and we do it every time. And now look where we are just 1 year later. It looks like our establishment is aiming for the UK to have the cleanest energy system in the world by not having any energy at all, a net zero energy system. And I'll remind you now of what the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, said a couple of months ago about increasing coal use to come during his economic hurricane speech at the Bernstein Autonomous Conference 2022. In fact, I'll show you the whole clip again so you can get the full impact of what he said and let you judge for yourself if he was right or not.
So that to me is the bright clouds out there. But it's different. The Fed has to meet this now with raising rates and QT. And the new part of this isn't the raising rates, it's the QT. The QT we've never had QE before like this. Therefore, we've never had QT like this. So you're looking at something they're going to be writing history books on for 50 years. What was QE? What worked? What didn't work? I think a lot of parts of QE backfired. I think the negative rates was probably a huge mistake for a whole bunch of different reasons I won't bore you with now. But they're going to have to raise rates. And in my view, they have to do QT. They do not have a choice because there's so much liquidity in the system. They have to remove some of the liquidity to stop the speculation, to reduce home prices, stuff like that. And you've never been through QT. So all the major buyers, if you go back to 2010 and say, who are all the major buyers of treasuries? All that time, it was central banks, foreign exchange managers, banks who were topping up their liquidity profiles because we had to for regulations. All three, it won't happen the go round. Banks are topped up, foreign exchange managers are topped up, the central bank will be selling, not buying, and governments have much more fiscal deficit to finance. That's a huge change in the flow of funds around the world. I don't know what the effect of that is. I'm prepared for, I tell you, a minimum huge volatility. And the third thing is Ukraine. Okay, you've not had a European land war since 1945. Okay, and the complexity of Ukraine is we don't know the outcome. I always make a list, if you predict the outcome. Well, you couldn't predict the outcome of Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, 10 other conflagrations. All wrong. Wars go bad. They go south, they have unintended consequences. And this happens to be rolling the commodity markets of the world. Wheat, oil, gas, and stuff like that, which in my view will continue. We're not taking the proper actions to protect Europe from what's going to happen in oil in the short run, and we're not taking the proper actions to protect you all what's going to happen to oil in the next 5 years, which means it almost has to go up the price. We're not investing enough money, to keep oil a number. And for all those who love climate change, if oil prices go to 175 or 150, which I kind of think is in the cards to tell you the truth, not in the immediate run, but down the road, then CO2 won't go up, down, which is everyone predicts because people buy less oil and gas. It's going to go up because all those other countries out there, the poor countries who need oil and gas to feed and heat their citizens, will not buy oil and gas, they'll buy coal. That's what's going to happen. CO2 will go up, it won't come down. And we're not dealing with these challenges. So those three things, fiscally induced growth, QT, Ukraine war. So I'm going to change the storm clouds out there because I'm an optimist. I said there's storm clouds, they're big storm clouds. It's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
But as I've said before, it's not just the poor countries going for coal. China, Germany, the Netherlands and New South Wales in Australia for a start. In fact, it seems that the UK is the outlier here, as we elect to freeze rather than be pragmatic about this stuff. The whole UK establishment, politicians, their advisors and the civil service are totally net zero carbon obsessed. And that is what will kill off any economic recovery that Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak are hoping for. With the reason for China burning so much coal being that we buy all the carbon-heavy goods they manufacture, then ship the stuff like steel and aluminium over in huge bunker fuel burning cargo ships. And all the while, we in the UK are busying ourselves switching our own lights out for virtually zero effect on the planet. And on previous performance of our net zero zealot governments, I reckon you can bet a pound to a pinch of salt that the UK will be shutting down gas power well before there's anything properly set up to replace it. And I have to question the sanity of anyone who thinks that the UK economy can somehow spring into growth on the back of a totally incoherent and self-damaging energy policy as fervently followed by the entire UK political classes. The UK economy needs a long-term energy security policy that delivers affordable energy for business and consumer alike. Not short-term suck-it-and-see virtue signalling. And do you really think that Labour will be any different? Instead of a privatised net zero mess, we'll have a nationalised net zero mess. Because they're all cut from the same net zero cloth.